Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. And in this episode, we're going to revisit the John Wick franchise. Just a side note here, unfortunately, a great actor has passed away, Lance Reddick. So we send our condolences to his family. But on a brighter note, we have a jam-packed episode. We have plenty to talk about, so stick with us. Dylan, let's get your thoughts on John Wick 1.
Yeah, great movie. Really revitalized the action genre. This franchise, I always say, did for guns what Kill Bill did for swords. It's just such a great like gun fetish movie, but it's awesome, and I love the action in it. And it was kind of an original story. So I mean, we've seen like kind of like Hitman movies before. I mean, even James Bond has kind of done like dark assassin movies. But yeah, what were your thoughts on the first movie?
Oh, I really enjoyed it a lot. I mean, it's iconic. The first movie. It's everyone always brings back the dog that died, but obviously that dog has a lot of meaning to John Wick. So it's not the dog itself, it's the last gift from the last person that he loved. And I think then we could empathize with this assassin, really. And, he's on this journey to get justice of some sort. And, he goes down the rabbit hole, and it's really interesting, the world building as well, where everyone's assassins. I think that's actually really unique. And of course, the gun fetish thing and stuff is really cool.
Yeah, and I love how like even from the first movie, he already has this kind of reputation as the boogeyman, or like the guy that you send to kill the boogeyman. Like, and that's why the boss, like, just seeing like everybody's reactions to him just shows you how much of a badass he is. Like when the first mob boss realizes his son killed his dog, and he's like, "You killed it? Whose dog?"
Yeah.
You're like, that's how you know it's like he's somebody you just don't fuck with, right? There's like certain people, like it's kind of like a Goodfellas. Like there's certain people you can mess with, and there's certain people that you don't mess with, and this is the guy you definitely don't mess with, right?
And that is so cool, and that is so badass too. And let's get our thoughts on the action sequences. I think that's really prominent, especially in John Wick. That was the introduction of everything. We had this sort of gun akimbo, I'd say gun type of Tai Chi style. Gun fu, exactly, which is really cool. What did you think of that?
Yeah, I love the fighting choreography in these movies. I think the first one definitely kind of established, and Keanu Reeves, man, he really trained his ass off for this role. Like you can see like the dedication. I mean, you're a gun enthusiast, so you can appreciate like how he has like trigger discipline, and how he's very like he seems like he's a very trained person with firearms. It's not like certain movies where like they just like, oh, they hold a gun with one hand and it's like pow pow pow, right? And even just like the accuracy of the firearms too, I really appreciate.
Oh, I love the guns here. Yeah, I mean, Keanu Reeves dedicated a lot to this role. This is one of his most iconic roles now, and it's interesting that he's much more of an older actor. So now it's like finally he's iconic for this. He was iconic for The Matrix, and now he's iconic for this. So that's always great. I loved the partnership that they had with Terran Tactical Innovations. That's really cool. Very Gucci gear. So for your gun nuts out there, you already know about Terran Tactical. He uses a lot of Glocks and stuff. And I think it also shows, what I like about costuming and what I like about the props department, people don't give them props as much, but they put a lot of attention to detail, especially the way how he has a lot of guns set up for basically competition shooting, if you think about it. And the way how he's dispatching people, he's very accurate. So it does make a lot of sense why he has that sort of Gucci gear / a lot of comps on the barrel of his rifles or whatnot. I loved it so much. And Keanu Reeves, again, we talked about how dedicated he is. He does a little bit of jujitsu here, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's like some sort of I love how they go a lot into the second and third movies, but he always does like this like taekwondo like grappling technique. When he still has like that firearm training, but like sometimes he'll get in like close corners and he'll like grapple with people, and I really appreciate that because he still uses his firearm in like close combat, which is like a really cool thing. It's like you're like a Mortal Kombat fight or something. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, like, what did you think of also like the supporting cast? Like we mentioned Lance Reddick, of course, but we also have Willem Dafoe as Marcus, Ian McShane as Winston. What are some of your thoughts?
It's interesting because in this underbelly of the Assassin's Network, they have, like, for example, Lance Reddick character name is like Charon or Charon, which is obviously comes from Greek mythology. And then we have Winston. They're very like suave type of gentlemen. I love the conversations they have. It's almost as if they're cigar just enjoyers, and
it's like a very exclusive club or something.
Very exclusive. Yeah, it's really interesting. It kind of dilutes the sense that they're assassins in a way. It kind of makes it cool. And
it's classy, classy but deadly.
And I think that's why James Bond also is, he was a spy, but what really attracts people to James Bond is how classy the whole thing
the
is.
Lifestyle. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that's easier to settle the notion that, okay, these people are all killers. They probably killed some innocents along the way, but we could kind of look past that for the movie because everybody's just so damn cool. I want to be in there for some reason. They're really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything about John Wick, I think, kind of is adapted from, previous iterations of assassins. You could say like James Bond, Jason Bourne. I mean, even his car, like he's got like a Ford Mustang. It's kind of like his Aston Martin in a way. So he has like all the tropes of an assassin. But I think really like he's a more, I would say, closer to Jason Bourne, because Jason Bourne, I would say, is like a more assassin. Like he's very like to the point. Like James Bond, he does like very like stylistically, but John Wick is kind of like that. Like he's a man of few words, right? He doesn't like chit chat. He's like to the kill, right?
Yeah, and I think that pays homage to. I think people come to these movies really to see the action at the end of the day, and they want to see very pedazzly type of action. That's why he does the jiu-jitsu and the gun fu stuff. It just looks really cool. But I think that pays homage to the stunt workers inside the industry. I think some sort of way, the fact that he's very mute a lot of times or doesn't have much to say. It's kind of like the stunt workers in the industry. They just go straight to the business. And they even did like a homage to Buster Keaton, one of the Godfather stunts. And so I think with that respect, that's why these films are good quality, but they're also just fun action movies at the end of the day where you could kind of shut your brain off. And I don't know, props to all of them, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. And it's kind of like, in a way, like an antithesis of like James Bond, because like James Bond is like, he's very dialogue driven, right? He uses like very, words as opposed. I mean, we know he's a skilled guy, but like he does a lot of talking, whereas John Wick kind of like his words are his actions, right? He doesn't like stop to like chit chat. Like I said, like he just does what he does, right? He doesn't need to like show off with like a monologue. All he needs to do is just like kill you.
And the story backs that up too. There's a lot of things that happen where he doesn't have a choice and he has to do certain things. I think we see that in John Wick 3. So he has no choice. He can't get out of this as well. So it does make sense. So I think everything as an ensemble, it really comes together really well. And that's why it's super iconic. And we see that John Wick Chapter 4 has right now, it's sitting at a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is crazy to me because it's like this movie is so filled with action, but it just goes to show that is fine. It's still great quality of film. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you want to move on to John Wick Chapter 2?
Yeah, my favorite of this franchise.
Okay.
It kind of opened up this bigger world of the High Table, which is kind of like this elite criminal organization. And John Wick is kind of pulled back into this world, right? He didn't really want to be into it. He kind of just wanted to retire and relax with his dog.
Yeah.
But he's kind of thrust back into it with his... he made a contract with this mobster named Santino. And I like how they do it too. It's like this very like traditional old, the blood oath. It's like this kind of like old style. It feels very like Machiavellian kind of, family type of story. So he has no choice, like you said. He has to honor this agreement, otherwise they'll be after him. Mm-hmm. But I feel like no matter what he does, they're always going to be after him. Yeah. It's like no matter he can't get out of it, right? But it was cool. Like so he has to pull off this hit, which is basically Santino's sister. And just like the sets, like you could tell, like they just went all out for this movie. Just like the big budget. You see Rome. You see like the Vatican. The stakes just get so much huger and so much grander, right?
Oh, and the stunts as well. The stunts and the gunplay as well. I think it was. Oh, and I think that's the scene. Well, at least one of the scenes where he is in Rome and he's going to see somebody about the bulletproof suit, which is really interesting. That feels very James Bond-esque, and it adds kind of to the. It's weird to say, but it adds to the realism of it, because he's bound to get shot at some point. So at least that he has a suit to back him up. So that was really cool. Yeah, and I think it's cool to see the Continental in a different country as well. So it just shows that they're everywhere.
They're international. Yep.
Which also could be a little weird too. At some point, I was thinking like, my goodness, this is really fake because you're telling me everybody in like a park is an assassin or something like that. But this is the world building of this movie. We also saw hobos that are assassins of some like faction and stuff. But it was really cool. What did you think of the antagonist in this movie? What did you think of Santino? Was he annoying or was he like? Did you like him because he's your favorite?
That I first saw that guy in Master of None. He was like the boyfriend. And he was like the really jealous boyfriend. Seeing him here was like funny. But yeah, he's a good actor. I like him, and I think he played like a snake, really good. He kind of reminds me of the villain from The Equalizer a bit.
Yeah,
I forgot that actor's name, but he's kind of like this traditionalist mobster, but he doesn't really like play by the rules. He's much of a coward, really, because as we saw, like he tries to hide in the Continental because he knows the rules. Like they can't kill in the Continental because it's like neutral ground. But that just shows to John's sentiment too. Like he doesn't really care. Like he's a man of vengeance. Like you fuck with him, he's gonna go after you, right? Yeah, and just seeing like everybody after him, like you said, like everybody in that park, that actually like scared me. I was like, because it's like you said, like everybody's like, you can't trust anybody. Like you look at a woman with a baby, she could be like a hitman for all you know, right?
The baby has a gun.
Your local halal like vendor could be an assassin for all you know. Like white sauce, hot sauce, or Glock 15. Yeah. No, but I think that's cool. It just shows like how much reach the High Table has, right? They're like everywhere. It's like a network. They're like Hydra, basically, right?
Yeah, and also kind of shows it kind of in a way. It's like it relates to the real world where like everybody's capable if you give them a reason to be, right? And everyone had their reason in this world with John Wick to be capable enough because they want that money, they want to go after him. So I find it really interesting. It's like you have to look all around you, always be cautious, and it's a scary setup too because like where is this guy gonna go on Earth? And that directly leads to John Wick 3, which is really awesome. But
yeah, and I love how like this feels like a private affair too. It's not like Fast and Furious where like, oh, the government gets involved, right? It's like, no, it's like within the family kind of thing. So he kind of has to deal with the High Table himself. Yeah, and then we have a lot of cool actors. Oh, we saw Lawrence Fishburne. He was in this movie too.
That's the introduction.
The Bowery King. I thought that was a great reunion between them. He's going to be back for the fourth one, so I can't wait to see. We had Ruby Rose too. And Common as Cassian. I like that fight they had in the train. I thought that was so cool.
They had multiple great fights. I think the first encounter they had, I believe it was a concert or something, or a get together. That was a pretty cool fight. And then the subway thing where they were like shooting at each other, which it was kind of fake at first, but nevertheless it's still pretty awesome to see. It's like satisfying.
Like low key, they were like trying to do like casual, like they're at the airport or some shit. They're like trying to shoot each other.
It was satisfying, the noise effects and stuff. I was like, please, you can't tell me someone's like walking over like hello. They have a Coca-Cola bottle next to their like hello.
Well, let me ask you, how did you think this movie compared to the first one handled the fights?
To be honest with you, I think in a way it improved it. I think there's a lot of places where you could pick. I think the first movie in general had great fights. I think with the second movie, there were a lot of fights that you could really actually pick which one is your favorite. And I think that's better than just having something in general that's like, oh yeah, the whole thing is great, whatever. At least with this one, you'll remember it. And so we're having this conversation now, and this movie came out a couple of years ago, and we still remember it. It's awesome.
That's so true what you said, because my favorite fight actually is the final one where he's in the like that House of Mirrors thing.
Oh yeah,
because it kind of reminds me, if anyone watched Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee, it just kind of reminded me of that final fight where he's in the house. I mean, he's kind of like, you really don't know if it's a mirror or it's the real person, but it's with guns. I think it's so awesome. And then that final fight with Ruby Rose was cool too.
Well, yeah, and it pays respect again to the past, to other great action movies as well, and it gives like kind of like a tribute to those movies and those workers as well, like the stunt workers and stuff like that. It's really great. Even a lot of the I don't know, gunmen and stuff, they're like well-known stunt people in that world. We just don't know them that much, but there's like a handful of well-known stunt workers there, and it's great to see them here. And which is crazy is you'll usually see those people, and at least like they're pretty separate. This time it was an ensemble of these stunt people. I could immediately spot a couple. I was like, holy shit, they all came together here. It was really great. So it looks like a love letter to action. Yeah.
It's I think this movie is my favorite. It's just like the perfect mix of like violence and classiness. I think everybody, like you included, you'll You'll probably remember it for that
Mhm.
scene where, like you said, like where he's getting the suits, or like when he gets like the guns for the
Yeah.
He's like, "Whoa, what will we having for dessert tonight?" Right?
Beautiful.
Right.
Guns.
It's such like it's like art basically, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that's so crazy just because it's an action movie. And that's not what you expect. But that's why I feel like it redefines something in the genre. And I think that's important. And I think a lot of movies, they'll try to take from that. And I think that's the point too. Like they took from certain movies in the past, like you mentioned a Bruce Lee movie. I think that's the point. When you could take good elements, you could improve on something while paying respect to the past in some shape, way, or form.
Yeah,
But
giving violence elegance in a way. Yeah.
absolutely. Now, let's talk about John Wick Chapter 3. This was a very interesting and type of global scale movie. Let me get your initial thoughts.
I have to admit, I actually haven't seen the third one, but I do know bits and pieces of it. So I actually want to ask you what your thoughts were on the third movie.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I think John Wick 1 and John Wick 3 are my favorites. There's a big twist that happens at the end. But what I find it interesting is that John Wick, again, he's that guy who wants to, he's so stuck in this problem that he has to go all the way to the top to handle it. But in a way, he buried himself even more. We see the Bowery King here as well. Lawrence Fishburne has more screen time, at least in this movie. But we also get the adjudicator. Exactly. Yeah. You know, guys, I'm like dyslexic with these words, but yeah, she's here. It shows the inner workings of the high table and stuff like that. I think that's interesting. So it fleshes out the world building more and the processes they take, and it actually kind of makes it more realistic. So I appreciate that. Lance Reddick really shined, I think, in John Wick Chapter 3. He had a lot of action sequences, especially at the end, which was beautiful. We had the character Zero, so there's like a katana fight. So I had everything you wanted. I know that you're a big fan of knives and katanas and stuff, so I think you would have been a big fan of the action sequences here. But yeah, that he went to, I believe, where was it? It was like, I'm sorry guys, I'm really bad at like deserts and stuff like that. I can't pinpoint the exact desert, but
yeah,
he was
like
Saudi Arabia,
like desert to find like the elder or something.
That was cool too, because that reminded me of Assassin's Creed. I think the guy even said, "Do you know where the original word for assassin came from? Assassin." And that's kind of like Assassin's Creed, and that was really interesting.
You know, Altair.
Yeah, Altair. La la. No, you know what's funny? He even cuts off his finger. In order to pay
the ring, right?
Yeah, so it's like, oh shit, bring in the Assassin's Creed people, and so that was cool. But yeah, you should definitely see this movie. If you guys haven't seen this movie as well, definitely check it out. It's one of my favorites. I think it's a worthy successor to the last one.
Whoa, that's it for the first three. But let me ask you, what do you think we'll see for? We have the trailer out, of course, for the fourth movie. What do you think we'll see for the fourth movie?
That's interesting because they keep adding so many characters, and this guy's traveling all over. Probably something that has to do with the Russian element. He was born in Russia, the character was, and so we'll probably see something along the lines of that, and hopefully a tease to apparently Ana de Armas is going to have a movie called The Ballerina or something, where she's an assassin / ballerina. Yeah, so we might see a tease for that. It's going to be all out war between the Bowery King, John Wick, Winston, and his people. And especially Winston now apparently is in good terms with the high table. So it's really a movie probably about toppling the kings down, which I'm really interested because what's going to happen with the original one, the guy that's like on top in that desert? I wonder, because he kind of did something wrong. He cut off his fingers basically for no reason because he came and tried to help Winston, which again was a twist because Winston betrayed John Wick at the end. So yeah, I think it's going to be all out war. This one might go actually really hardcore. Like the other ones were really like specific scenarios. This one seems like all around we're going to do this war. So it might be actually grander. That's what I'm hoping at least. And I can't wait for the stunts as well. And I can't wait for the guns. Daring Tactical, those guys are making so much money from these movies, I bet. But yeah, what do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like the Bowery King and John Wick will probably have an alliance and then go against the high table, like you said. I think Winston still kind of has a respect for John Wick, so maybe he'll actually go back to his side. Maybe he's just doing this to make it seem like, you know, he's trying to play nice with the high table. We still have Bill or Alexander Skarsgård's character. I wonder, he seems like he's like maybe like a high member of the high table. And it looked like there was this like duel or something they were gonna have. So maybe it's like John Wick. It's like all the stakes are on this duel, right? So maybe it's like for a seat at the table. So maybe if John Wick actually is a member of the High Table, he can get out of his contract.
Oh,
Right.
that's yeah.
So, we also saw Donnie Yen in this movie. I don't know if he's gonna be like a hitman or so. Oh, we also saw Hiroyuki Sanada. He's one of my favorite actors too. A lot of martial arts more in this movie, which I really respect too. Yeah, a lot of great. I'm expecting a lot of great fights for this. A lot of great action sequences. Great set location. Seems like this was like in Paris, New York, probably like all over the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I cannot wait. Everybody, expect our review for John Wick Chapter 4 on Friday. The video will be released on Friday. So guys, expect that. As always, if you guys like this video, please to be sure to shoot the like button. No, YouTube don't demonetize us. Yeah, just make sure you drop a like and also share it to your friends and stuff like that.
Or
Dylan,
Baba
why don't you
Yaga
take
will
us?
come after you.
Yeah, I will come after you guys, all right? Dylan, take us away.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Yeah, definitely check out our John Wick 4 review when it comes out tomorrow. Check out our other reviews. We're still covering Mandalorian. We'll drop after this review. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Until then, thanks for having lunch with us.
See you guys.